The apostles from Berserk are some of the most evil and vile creatures in fiction. These once humans, who sacrificed everything they loved, including their own humanity, have committed countless atrocious acts throughout the story of Berserk. They have zero regard towards life. Their only purpose is fulfilling their darkest desires. Because of their gargantuan power, no human is strong or even brave enough to cross their paths, with the exception, of course, of the Black Swordsman, who throughout his crusade has slain many of these monsters. Now, the apostles look down at the humans as merely insects who pose no threat whatsoever to their rule. However, what if there was a human who possessed the strength of an apostle? A man who's capable of committing atrocities just for the thrill of it, and does them so because no one can stop him, just like an apostle would. A man who's also referred to as the ogre, who carries the face of a demon in his back. Would he be able to fight those otherworldly creatures? Or would he be just another human for the apostles to feast upon? We'll be answering that question in today's video, when I go over some what-if battles of Yujiro facing off the apostles from Berserk. You could consider this video as a spiritual sequel to my Yujiro vs Guts video, so if you haven't watched that one, I highly recommend it because most of the points I'll make throughout this video have been explained in the Yujiro vs Guts one. Initially, the idea here was to make only one video where I'll analyze every matchup. However, as I was writing the script, it was getting a bit too long, so in this video I'll only talk about the Snake Apostle and the Count. But here's a little spoiler for this part, and as well as for the next videos. Yujiro wins 90% of these with little difficulty, and the rest of them with mild difficulty. Keep in mind I'll only do the apostles that Guts fought and that we have enough information about. So the Snake Apostle, the Count, Zod, Wild, Rosine, Mosgus and his crew, and Grumbeld. So no creatures like the trolls or ogres, no Slan avatar either, and none of the nameless apostles in the Eclipse. I'm also not throwing in Ganishka's avatar because, well, Yujiro cannot fly, and I don't want to give him a jetpack like they do with Mr. Satan in the DBZ games. I'll be using the same rule of feats I used in the Yujiro vs Guts video, which is, since Yujiro is the most powerful character in the entire show, every single feat or power demonstration from any other character should be below him. So without further ado, let's get into our first round. The first apostle we see Guts fighting in the manga, well, besides the female apostle he kills in the first few pages, is the Snake Lord. Even though he didn't get much exposure, he was the perfect introduction to get the audience familiarized with what the average apostle is like. Sadistic, cruel, vile, ruthless monsters who, because of their absurd strength, can do absolutely anything they want. He even marched on his own town, killing every man, woman and child who showed up in his path, just for his own amusement. In his human form, he doesn't pose much of a challenge for Guts. He got knocked off his horse by Guts' crossbow alone. Now when he transforms into his apostle form, he becomes much more of a threat. A single swipe from his tail was enough to send Guts flying several feet in the air. He can also destroy brick walls with pretty much zero difficulty. He doesn't have any speed feats, but he was sneaky enough to hit Guts from his blind spot when he was hidden. As far as his durability goes, half of his face got blasted off by Guts' arm cannon. He was sliced in half by the Dragon Slayer, and we see that Guts' arrows are enough to pierce his skin and cause him damage. So in comparison to some of the apostles later introduced, he's definitely at the lower end when it comes to durability. Now, for every Yujiro fight, I'll determine the outcome based on two conditions. Number 1, could they hurt Yujiro? And number 2, could Yujiro hurt them? So, for the Snake Apostle, could he hurt Yujiro? Based on the very few feats he has shown in the manga, and without going into speculation, no, he couldn't. In an open field, without any place to hide and hit Yujiro from, he wouldn't be able to touch the ogre. Yujiro has shown many times throughout the series that whenever he wants to, he can move so fast it looks like he's teleporting. And he does it effortlessly, without putting up any sweat. Not only that, but he's used to fighting in warfields against people with firearms, blitzing whole squads before a single soldier can even pull the trigger. And even if he managed to sneak a surprise attack, it probably wouldn't hurt him, like, at all. We see that his strikes are enough to lift off Guts and destroy brick walls. However, that is the type of damage that 13-year-old Baki endured during many of his fights, such as against the Yasha Ape. Here, we see the Asha Ape charging against Baki, completely destroying the massive boulder behind him. However, this amount of damage is nothing to current Baki. Even during the Arizona prison arc, when Oliver smacked Baki against 4 concrete walls, it didn't do much to him other than knocking him out for a few seconds. And since Yujiro is way above Baki, you get my point. Now for the second question, could Yujiro hurt the Snake Lord? We don't know the full attack potency of base Guts, aka without the Berserker armor, using the Dragon Slayer, but the most consistent feats show him cutting through waves of armored soldiers and destroying structures like stone pillars. Low tier characters, like the random Chinese fighters from Retsu's temple, are strong enough to cut massive rocks with their bare hands and feet. Also, Dorian, who's considered a low tier nowadays, dig up a massive tunnel through a rocky mountain only using kicks and punches. We have many more feats of other fighters casually destroying stone and concrete structures with their bare hands, like Spec, who almost made the Statue of Liberty collapse using only physical strikes. Now, since Baki takes place in modern day, we don't see many people wearing medieval armor. However, we've seen plenty of characters destroying metal-based objects, such as Hanayama when he punched his car, and Oliva crumpling a cell door with a single punch. Those are all fairly casual feats for Baki characters, and if they can do it, then so can Yujiro, and with much more ease. Matter of fact, we've seen early Yujiro completely trashing a steel door that was as thick as the door of a bank vault. Just to give you guys another example of Yujiro's strength, this is what his punches are capable of. Keep in mind, he didn't have his demon back activated yet, and this is not even current Yujiro, which is his strongest version. Even some of the low tiers in Baki have similar AP to the Dragon Slayer, so Yujiro could definitely hurt the Snake Apostle, if not just one-shot him if he aims for the head. The first round goes to the Ogre. While the Snake Lord was a great introduction for what an Apostle is, the Count gave us a little bit more information on how the Apostles are born. We see his backstory, a once harsh ruler but who also cared for his kingdom and loved his family. Upon seeing his wife's unforgiving betrayal, sacrificed his humanity in order to overcome his pain, becoming the Slug Apostle. The Count is definitely one of the apostles with the most hacks out there. He can regenerate his body, he can make pseudo-apostles, and he can bury parts of his body to surprise his opponents. With that being said, could he hurt Yujiro? Probably not. Let's be generous with the Count and give him a pseudo-apostle to fight Yujiro with, as well as a battlefield where he can surprise attack the Ogre. Zondark would be no match for Yujiro. As we saw during his fight against Guts, he can attack faster than what the human eye can see. However, being faster than the eye is something that even the lowest tiers in Baki can do. For example, pre-Endorphin Baki was already faster than the eye. Current Yujiro would just blitz Zondark. Also, Yujiro has the ability to detect people's weak spots. Not only that, but he has an extremely high battle IQ. He would immediately figure out that the only way to stop his regeneration would be smashing the tiny slug's head. With the pseudo-apostle out of the way, he has free access to the Count, and if the Count decides to surprise attack Yujiro, he would definitely be able to react in time. I went into more depth about Yujiro's reaction speed in my Yujiro vs Guts video. I also addressed the darts and nets scene, so if you want a more detailed explanation, go check that out. But basically, Baki characters can either dodge bullets, or at the very least, they have a superhuman reading of intention, to the point where they can tell when somebody is about to shoot them and dodge before they even pull the trigger, sometimes even when the enemy is behind them. So the moment Yujiro notices the ground moving, even if it's just a little bit, he would immediately move out of the way. Then again, even if he got hit, it probably wouldn't hurt him that much. Considering what the Count has shown in terms of attack potency, it's not that much different from the level of structural damage previously stated, even though he is stronger than the Snake Apostle. Now, could Yujiro hurt him? Considering Yujiro would have already figured out how to stop his regeneration, yeah, most likely. Even though the Count is much bigger than the Snake Apostle, which would make it difficult for Yujiro to hit his head, the Ogre fought against even bigger creatures, such as the elephant he kills in the first episode of Son of Ogre. Here's an image of just his paw compared to a human, and here's an image of his whole body compared to military trucks. Oh, and by the way, do you see those machine guns attached to the top? Those did absolutely nothing against the elephant. Meanwhile, Yujiro managed to tear him apart. The Count got hurt by Guts' knives, so it's safe to say that those machine guns would have blown his brains out. Yujiro could very easily close the distance between the two and just go straight for the kill. As I said, Being faster than the eye is child's play for Baki characters, so the Count wouldn't be able to react as Yujiro just blitzes him. Therefore, second round also goes for the Ogre. And that's it for today's video. Before I finish, I just want to say something I also mentioned in the Yujiro vs Guts video. I believe that it's impossible to 100% objectively determine the outcome of a fictional versus matchup, especially when the two fighters are from different universes. So don't take anything I've said too seriously. This is just my interpretation of the stories, and if yours is different, make sure to write it down below. Now that I'm on college break, I'll probably upload a lot more, so make sure to subscribe and check out my other videos. And as always, peace out.